Hello and welcome to the Stuff I Learned About Learning, a TCEA podcast. I am Robert Bennett and I'm here with my co-host Macy Hall Greer. Macy, you, me, and the rest of the TCEA staff, we just got back from a fun beach vacation in Galveston. Have you recovered yet?
I have not recovered yet. It was a fun beach vacation, but it was also a working vacation for us. Don't be fooled, folks. He's talking about ETC, our elementary technology conference that we hosted in June. We took about 500 of our closest friends down to Galveston, or they joined us in Galveston, I should say, for 3 days of content right on the beach side. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really tough to be there and have to not look at the beach because the beach was directly behind me, and
Uh-huh.
I had to keep I had to stare at my computer and help people back in, and it was really tough having that like backdrop directly behind me. And I don't know when this episode's going to drop, probably in October. It's going to be really tough to not want to be back there. Although I do have to admit that I did just about kill myself with fried food. I think I really hit my limit there. My body was wondering what I was trying to do to it.
Some of the food was really good, yeah. And I even heard from attendees, ETC is one of our only events that we provide lunches and snacks. And we got some positive reviews on the food. And I also heard about the view. I had the benefit of going to sessions with attendees, which was fantastic. Met so many great people. Shout out to my ETC friends. But they said every time they would get bogged down in a session or their brain would feel heavy from learning so much, they would step out of the session straight into the view of the beach and all of the stress would just melt away. I thought that was so fantastic.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
And ETC and some of our other events, like our convention and exposition, TCEA, and even sysadmin that we host in November, those are great opportunities to step outside of the norm and really dive deep into some strategies, solutions, and resources that can help you face everyday challenges. And that's actually what we're going to talk about today. Someone who's faced challenges and really overcome with the power of positivity and communication and vulnerability. Today, we're going to talk to Mabel Estevez-Juarez, who's a Title I math specialist at Carlos Kuhn Elementary. Let's jump right into it. Mabel, I understand you've been at your school for about 12 years now. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What brought you to the school and what drew you to this role that you're in of math interventionist?
So, to be really honest, when I first started applying to teach as first year teacher, I was like, I don't want to go anywhere that's like 5 minutes away from my house. Like, that's my limit. And I think a lot of that just rooted from growing up in a neighborhood like that. I went to all SAISD schools. And it
Mm-hmm.
was very like our teachers, kind of lived in the neighborhood. So I was just like, I want that. I want to be close to home. I don't want to be far. I want to go to my local grocery store and see my kids. So I told myself, I'm like, I'm only going to apply to the 3 schools that are here in my neighborhood. And that's it. Very first interview I went on, one of the people on the panel followed me out to the parking lot after the interview and she was like, I really hope you take this job. Don't go to any of your other interviews today. And I was like, well, it really doesn't depend on me. And within 30 minutes, I had a call from the principal at the time and got the job. And so I was a language support teacher and I served in that role for a year. Unfortunately, I was displaced and I was already told, go meet your new principal, go meet your new partner. I had already packed all my stuff up and had gone to this new school. And then the math specialist who was there at the school, he'd actually been there for years. I thought he'd retire from the position, retired suddenly. And so I was just thinking to myself, because I had already helped out the math specialist, like in my time and her being by herself. And in my pockets of time, I would go and help her out, with doing review groups and whatever she needed, prepping materials for teachers, helping her out with, spreadsheets and stuff. And I got to see, the job. I got to see the perspective of being a math specialist. So I thought to myself, like, well, I have a good rapport with her. I've built a good relationship with her. I see what she's done. Why not try for it? Why not apply? Um, and I knew there was a lot of good people applying for it. I actually accidentally, I don't know that they purposely did it, but when I went to interview, I crossed paths with the person who'd interviewed right before me. And I knew she was already a math specialist. And I was like, oh, she's going to get it. I'm like, not even going to try, but whatever. So I went in and interviewed for it. And There was new administration at the time, and they were like, they both were like, you were the best for the job. You interviewed great. And we're excited to have you. So I've been doing that for 6 years now, and I love it. And people ask me all the time, would you go back to LST? Because that opportunity has come up, and I'm like, no way. I was like, I can do what I was doing as an LST. I can service these bilingual kids. I can
Mhm.
Mhm.
service these teachers because there is no math specialist that is bilingual. That's not a position that exists.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are unwilling to help in that sense because we don't get extra pay for that. Like a
Mhm.
bilingual teacher gets a stipend for it.
Mhm.
So so I love it now. I'm kind of like the informal math bilingual specialist.
That's cool. I'm curious, what is the thing that you like about it the most?
About being a math specialist?
About being a math specialist.
It's funny because math was one of the things I was really not the best at when I was a kid, and the person who really changed that for me was one of my professors in college, and he taught us how to go backwards. He's like, "We're gonna start at the answer, and we're gonna see what how we processed how we got there." And I love doing that for kids. I love for the kids to say, "I hate math, I'm not good at it, blah, blah, blah," to be like, "Oh, it's like a game, and I have to figure out what's the fastest way to get there for me." And I just love that part of it. I love to see them truly fall in love with math, and a lot of them now are like, "I love math over reading, I don't wanna go to it." I'm like, "Oh, yay."
That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is tough is that we have this idea that there's a math person, that you show up to the world with math in your brain, and
Mhm.
I don't think that that's really true. I think a lot of it is just practicing and learning a way of thinking to make that happen.
100%, and it's not at all like, reading literacy, that's very cyclical, you
Mhm.
always do those things, right? But
Mhm.
math is not. Math is pretty complex, and especially to certain people, so, it's all about figuring out how that person's mind processes it and help those kids to understand, like, your brain doesn't work like their brain doesn't work like my brain, so let's figure it out together how you're gonna understand it.
Absolutely. I love that you draw that parallel. I, I'm our communication specialist here at TCEA, so I do a lot of writing emails, a lot of editing. I am in that literature esque world a lot of the time, working with grammar and sentence structure and style. And my husband's an engineer, so he's very much on the math side of things. And we thought for a long time, the grammar and the math, we think different ways. But
Mm.
it's so interesting that you drew that parallel of the two, of you can do a similar thing between the students, you can help students in similar ways cross topically, cross across multiple subjects.
Mhm.
We've noticed in our household that the way he approaches math problems is much like the way I approach editing.
Nice.
Really? That's
That's
interesting.
awesome.
So it is interesting to hear that,
Yes.
and kind of validating that we're not just weirdos over here on our own little world. So thank you for
That's what I
that.
was just saying, to give them that validation, right? Because if they can't be successful at this one thing, right, then how can we hope for them to have the expectation they can be successful in life, right? So
Absolutely.
to bring validation to them.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like you came in super hopeful, big plans for this new role. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were hoping to build, like what goals you went into this role with, and how that's kind of changed as you've progressed?
So initially when I came in, I had this partner who's amazing. Like, she went to school for this. Like, her degree was in math. And here I was coming off of like early childhood education. And so initially I was very like, she's the leader, she's the one, I'm number two, she's number one. And I verbalized that so many times that it actually ended up becoming my reality. I was like the little assistant to her. And it
Mm,
was, like, not her doing, it was not the camp, it was me. But little by little, it became more obvious that, we were a partnership. There were things that she could do that I couldn't, there were things that I could do that she couldn't. And so this year, when we had been partners for 5.5 years, when she took an administrative position, I was kind of, and there were also the other things going on campus. We had a change in administration again. We had two major losses on our staff. We'd lost two staff members to respiratory illnesses, and it was just a very hard, year. I was like, okay, Diane's gone now. What do I do? Who am I without Diane? But what I ended up finding out through this process was I'm I'm the perfect person to have been by themselves for this. I don't because I always put the kids first. I always put the teachers first. I left my stuff to the back burner, which had a little bit of an effect on my family life. But I have such a supportive husband who actually teaches on campus with me. He's the art
Oh,
teacher on
that's
campus.
awesome.
Um, and so I I just did everything I could to sustain my teachers, to keep them going, to take loads off of them that they normally would have to do on their own, and just trying to find a new system, trying to find who I was as a math specialist without my partner of so long. She was my mentor, she was my guide, and I had to figure out, well, how am I going to lead this department now? And anybody who knows me knows, like, Mabel's the person who's going to take her shirt off and give it to you. Mabel's the person who's going to prioritize your stuff before her stuff. And a lot of the times I always like say that's my strength and my weakness. But for sure in this role, in this year, that was the one thing that kept me going and that kept the teachers afloat, and the kids. There were so many kids that had fallen through the gaps that we were able to get the help and support that they needed. And I also built a partnership with the middle school that most of them would feed into. So even now in the summer, I've been communicating with them and saying, hey, this one wasn't quite there. They came new to us, or I had this many more weeks of intervention that they needed to do. Please stay on top of it. So what I wanted to do was kind of clean up the system a little bit. And I had great support in my admin team to do that. Like, that was her drive. That was her goal as well. Coming in new, this was her first full year as our principal. And I feel like we did accomplish that. I feel like we have a good starting point for this coming year to keep that momentum going, but also add another piece to it, which is going back into the classrooms. Because a lot of it was like pulling out, pulling out, pulling out. Let me take this off your load. Let me take this
Mhm.
group so you can focus on that. And so I feel like we've cleaned up a lot of it. And now this coming year, it's going to be about, let me push back in with you. Let me sit side by side with you. And now let's do this together.
Awesome.
And
It
it'll
sounds
be,
like you had to take on a much larger role as a leader as well. Like, you were a support person, but you were a leader. What was sort of the moment when you realized that your role had changed and what you had to do to sort of get to that next level?
um, when, when my partner left, I was, now having to take on her groups as well.
Hmm.
And I couldn't just shift whatever those kids were doing because they had already started a plan with her. So quickly realized, like, oh my gosh, I have to do my 50 kids, and I have to do her 40 kids, and how am I going to do this? And so I, luckily again, I have great, so my principal is just amazing. And I, together with her and my AP, it really helps if they were both former math specialists. Like, that was amazing. They actually both were in my cohorts before, on my district cohorts. And telling them, like, I can't do this by myself. And so I think that was like the epiphany. Like, in order to be a leader, you need help. You need support. You're not leading this charge by yourself. You need to be able to humble yourself and say, I need help. And I was able to just, text them at a moment's notice and say, like, this is how I'm feeling. They would check in with me, and I would tell them, like, so they were able to give me that help in the form of day tutors, in the form of long-term substitutes, and then having to now make their schedules and make sure everybody was fitting where they were, meeting with all of the grade levels, where before it was like I was only in charge of second grade and fourth grade. Now I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have to meet with every single grade level.
Wow.
So getting and trying to fit all those pieces together. And then every time a kid with withdrawal, we had to replace that kid in a group, or this kid was showing improvement. We could pulling our data reports and saying, whoa, this one did great. So what did we do with this kid that we can now do with X, Y, and Z? So um, that was really the moment where I was like, okay, it's me. It's all me now. So you need to humble yourself and admit you can't do this by yourself. Help
Wow.
me.
That's terrific
Absolutely.
because, yeah, I think when folks think about a leader, they think that it's someone who does not say that they're struggling or like puts on a brave face and pushes through. But I think that you're right in saying that that can bring more harm than it does good because there's so much stress that things can break down very easily. And you're really not helping your task. Like, you're not helping achieve the things that you want to achieve because you're not being honest that like you need support.
Yeah. And my principal loves to she always says, like, "I'm not being a good leader if I'm not building capacity in you." She
Mm.
and I was always a person who was like, I'm not a leader, I'm a follower. I'm not a leader, I'm a follower. I need you to tell me what to do, and I will do it. I'm a good little soldier." But both of them, sat me down and they were like, "Stop being so hard on yourself. Stop saying that. You are a leader, and you just need to be able to show your weaknesses and admit to them, and you also need to give yourself credit for all the other things that you do, and you don't see it." So it was more, they've just been amazing guides, amazing, examples of being true leaders.
Awesome. That's wonderful to hear.
That is, and that's such a big shift to, not only internalize and process, but also to push forward with a new action plan. It's clear that you're very passionate about this intervention and leading from within the cohort or leading from within the team or standing beside someone and helping them through things. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in seeing that through?
So one of the biggest challenges we face, and specifically on my campus, and I'm sure there's so many more of them, is we're a turnaround campus academically.
Mhm.
So that means we're needing all the help that we can because our scores are not where they're supposed to be. Our data is not what it's supposed to be. But we're also a turnaround campus physically. Like, we have so many kids leave and come and leave and come, and we also have had a change in administration. And it happens. It's just when you have a change in administration, people leave. So we've had turnaround on our staff. That has been the biggest challenge because if you don't have consistency, right, then how can you really see if something's truly working? Um,
Absolutely.
and so that's been our biggest uphill battle, is having some consistency. But like I was saying last time we spoke, that's what I'm most excited for. I was ready to leave this position. I've multiple times I went to her. I was like, "Jessica, I am not the person for this. There's somebody better out there for this school, for this campus, for you. And I will go back into the classroom. Like, where do you need me to go? I'll go back to the classroom and I won't do this anymore." And she was like, "No." She's like, "I understand if you feel like you need a break." She's like, "I did that one time. I did that in my career before, but no, you are the person for this. I see it in you. I've seen the growth that you've made, and I want you by my side." You hear it, right? But internalize, you have to also shut the voices off inside of you, and you're like, "But is this for real? Like, do you really mean this?" And again, we had I had gone through a lot of, it was hard. It was hard walking down
Mhm.
certain hallways and passing by the classroom of a friend of mine, and I knew that they weren't there anymore. Um, that was a challenge. That was a big, big struggle.
Mhm.
Um, but I know that just like they were committed to our campus, one of them, I mean, her whole career, she was there 20 plus years.
Mhm.
Um, the other, he was committed to the district for 30 years, 10 at our school. And I just know, like, no, Doug and Megan would not want you to leave.
That's so
This is
lovely. That's so inspiring to hear. I mean, yeah. I think that that's something that I keep hearing from folks as we talked more and more of the frontline educators is that the thing that keeps them going is the people on their left and their right. It's the students, but it's also your colleagues that you can't let them
Mhm.
down, that you want to push through and make those things happen. So that is so inspiring.
and somebody has to teach these kids. It's easy to say, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna move on to a non-title school. I'm just gonna move on to a more affluent school." But that's the easy way out,
Yeah.
right? someone has to teach these kids, someone has to serve in these communities. And I want it to be me because I came from something like that. I was at a Title I campus. I grew up in inner city San Antonio. And so I can't give up. I won't.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear. You talked once about how when you pulled others to your work and helped spark their passion too. I'd like to find out if there's a way you can share a story or a moment that stands out from that process about how you like inspired them to help you in what you were doing.
So my GT teacher, I told you, she really jumped in a lot and helped me this year. And I was just so grateful for her because she has all her own stuff she's got to do. She's got to do her own testing, her own data. She's got to do parent communication, progress reports, all that. And still she was willing to give up a day of, in her week. Like Monday she would give it up for me to go teach some of my high flying first graders that weren't necessarily GT, but she saw the potential in them, and she would come and help me with my district map testing. She would come and desegregate data with me, really just everything that I needed if to bounce off of an idea. She would come knock on my door before I even, thought to go. I was like, I'm not gonna go bother Susie again. But no, here was Miss Corley coming and knocking on my door and like, what do you need today? Like, what can I help you with? And I'm like, no, no, you're good. And she's like, no, tell me, like, even like helping me to develop like graphic organizers for my kids in a way that, I couldn't process. I was like, your little GT brain probably thinks better, things like that. And she truly loves math, but she's always been more of an RLA person. And she just really saw a whole different side of it that now she is taking on a math specialist role. We've it's She had the opportunity to apply to other GT positions, and she was like, you know what? She's like, I'm gonna do this. My principal fought to create this position for her, and she's so motivated and to be like, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay as your partner, and she's gonna be my third math specialist now. So I'm like, that's amazing, and it's also because I mean, she drives an hour every day from Bernie to
Wow.
service these kids. She had an opportunity to go to a school that was less than 5 minutes from her, and she was like, no, this is home, and I can do this. You and I can do this together. And she's going to continue to make that drive every single day to be there and to be my partner.
That's so amazing. That's so great that you have those people and that you are capable of inspiring them to be these kinds of people.
I want to do these things. I was hesitant at first, but I told my husband, I'm like, you know what? Like, education right now is going through a major, like, scary time. And I just want other teachers to know, like, hey, if the people making these decisions are not in the classroom every day. It's
Mhm.
us. It's us who are in the classroom every day, who see what's going on behind closed doors, and we need to speak up with each other, with parents, with just community, and say like, hey, it's okay to say like, hey, I'm drowning. It's okay to say this isn't working, because if we don't advocate for our kids and we don't advocate for ourselves, we're just going to keep losing more wonderful and amazing educators.
Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely.
do you want to like? I think that's a great place to say. I know that there's probably a lot of teachers out there who right now it's summer, but they probably feel like they're drowning. What's a piece of advice that you would give them about how to stay above water and how to keep moving forward?
To really honestly, the best way to stay afloat, the best way to not feel so defeated is to communicate with each other, and to speak up, and not so much just go to like these little, because we all do it. We all go to choir practice and we all vent with each other. We have a little liquid courage in us.
I like choir practice. I'm gonna steal that one for sure.
But to speak up also with our administration and with, higher ups, politically as well. Like, we are leaving decisions in the hands of people who've never been in the classroom. So don't do that. Don't speak up when they ask us to speak up. Don't come back and be like, "Well, I don't wanna be that one person." Be that one person because it takes that one person to make a difference. It takes that one person to give the courage to somebody else. So, if you wanna survive this coming year, if you wanna stay afloat, if you wanna go another 12 years, 10 years, if you wanna make it, then don't sit in silence and don't stay quiet. Talk to your friends, talk to your admin, talk to whoever you need to talk to. Talk to Robert and Macy, um, because that's the only way you're gonna make it through.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Robert, those were some really powerful takeaways, and some real vulnerability I think that a lot of our educators can relate to. I know me in an office setting, I could sure relate to it even.
Yeah, I like it. It feels really great to know that there are people like her out there that are making it
Absolutely.
happen. Like, it's so heartening to hear that, I think a lot about who is out there trying to take care of our kids.
Mhm.
And if it's someone like Mabel, then I feel just so much better. And I think it's that there's a lot to learn from her for everyone who has to work in groups, who has to provide a service, who has to serve a duty. I think that like there's a lot to learn from her.
I completely agree with you.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff I Learn About Learning, a TCEA podcast. Want to learn more about us or TCEA in general? Check out tcea.org for all stuff TCEA. And if you'd like to reach out to us directly or put yourself out there as a podcast guest, reach out to Robert Bennett, that's me, at rbennett@tcea.org. That's BENNETT. Two N's, two T's, folks. Don't forget it. In the meantime, keep learning.